Good afternoon, and the warmest of welcomes to today's iOB business webinar. It's a pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, if this is your first time joining us on one of these iOB business webinars, a little bit of how they work, just so that you get the most from today's session before we get kicked off. Okay, so right as we get started, we always do a little introduction with myself before we get kicked off, just to let you get to know me. Then when we're going to dive into the webinar, we're going to cover 3 core topics. We're going to run for around about 15 to 20 minutes or so, after which we will do a Q&A session at the end of today's webinar. Okay, now to ask questions for this Q&A webinar, you're more than welcome to do so throughout any time throughout the session. I won't pick them up, however, until the end of the webinar. So please do ask whenever it feels like you've got something urgent or you want to go, and ask that question before you forget it. Alternatively, I'm also going to give you a break in between each of the 3 topics throughout today's session, so that you do have actually a moment to jot down any of these questions. Okay, you can also use this time to take notes and whatever. Don't worry, you won't fall behind throughout today's session. Okay, we're going to take plenty of time, and if you do feel like you're falling behind, drop me a note in the chat box. We can slow it down. Okay. So if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, you can do so in the gray Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. You can ask away anything you like, business marketing related. Okay, so whilst we are giving everybody a moment to join us now, welcome to those of you that are just getting online with us now. Pleasure to have you on here. Once again, my name is Ben. I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. And if you do have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them. Okay, so let's get us set up for today's session. Okay, so in just a moment's time, I'm going to go ahead and switch off my video camera. So you shouldn't be able to see my face anymore, but you should still be able to hear my voice. I'm going to bring the presentation up on screen in 1, 2, 3. Now we're good to go. Okay, awesome. So right before we get kicked off, if I could please just ask a quick favor. Let me know in the chat box if you can hear my voice okay, and if you can see the presentation up on screen okay. You shouldn't be able to see my face anymore. No, that's perfect. Don't worry about that. Everything is good. Let me just check this chat box and check that we're all ready to rock. Okay, awesome. Cool, looks like we're all good to go. So if you do have any issues, not that we ever experience any, but if you do have any, please do let us know in the chat box. Otherwise, we should have a smooth running webinar ahead of us. Okay, so we're just about at the 2 o'clock mark. Now let's get kicked off with today's session. So today's topic of conversation: a happy entrepreneur is an effective business owner. Okay, really cool topic of conversation, something I'm very, very excited to speak with you about. So my name is Ben. I am a business coach. I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business, and I specialize in working with small businesses, just like many of you on here today, to help them achieve stability and growth going forwards in their businesses. It's my passion, it's my love, it's a genuine pleasure to be on here presenting with you today. Okay, so the 3 core topics of conversation that we've got for us. Number 1, creativity flows the most when you are relaxed. Okay, so you'll hear it in my voice now. I'm nice and relaxed. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share this presentation with you. Naturally, when you have this feeling, a little bit more creativity can flow from you, which is cool. So we're going to cover that today. Number 2, you cannot take care of the business if you do not take care of yourself. I'm a very, very firm believer in this one. The first place I will start with anyone as a coach, if they're struggling with running their business well, is what their personal habits are. And finally, focus on the good feeling. Okay, it's a nice one to finish up on. It's a really, really cool topic to speak about. So let's get kicked off with topic number 1. Creativity flows the most when you are relaxed. Okay, so first things first, forcing the issue rarely works, if ever. Now, the reason that this is appropriate to speak about is because many of us, when we're experiencing this kind of effect of I'm not being productive, I'm not getting enough done, I'm feeling a bit run down, I'm feeling a bit crap today. Okay, often a natural sort of reflexive instinct is to say, no, that's it, I'm going to get it done. That's it, I'm absolutely not taking any more of this. I'm getting up, I'm doing it now. Okay, now that's one side of this component. The other side is we're trying to be creative. We're trying to think of something new, something cool, something innovative, something that's going to bring our business more attention, bring ourselves more attention. Okay, and we sit there and we force it. We're thinking really, really hard. We're thinking, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to bring more attention, more creativity to myself this way. Now, why can we not just force this creativity to come up? Why can we not just think of all these new and brilliant ideas. Now, here's the truth. Ironically, the harder you force it, the less likely it is to come through. Okay, you sit there, you're trying to force the issue of creativity. You find yourself working so hard to think of something that internally you're actually beating yourself up. Internally, you're actually having an argument with yourself about why you're not being creative enough today, that you end up not having any new ideas whatsoever. You end up not thinking of anything innovative or cool or anything like that, because you're sitting there, you're trying so hard. And this is what is so ironic. You're doing your level best to force something out and nothing's going to come. Okay, so this is the first point I want you to bear in mind for today. Forcing the issue rarely works, if ever. Creativity flows the most when you're relaxed. Now, this is always my personal opinion, as is all of the content that I produce. Okay, now I truly believe that the more relaxed you are, the more creative you're going to be. Why? Because you're happier, you're more at peace, you're allowing your brain to just work with what it needs to work with. Okay, now many of us believe that simply sitting or simply taking a moment to relax is a waste of time. We're not being productive, we're not doing anything, we're not creating spreadsheets or marketing campaigns or whatever. Okay, and you start beating yourself up for actually just relaxing, which again, there's the irony, right? You're too busy beating yourself up for relaxing that you forget to be creative, right? But I want us to understand this phenomenon of you're trying to force the creativity and it isn't coming because you're stressing yourself out. Additionally, don't ever beat yourself up for just taking a moment, to think, okay? You must allow your mind to create without criticizing it. Now, this is a separate point. Finishing off on the first one, why is just sitting and thinking a good thing? Because you can come up with whatever you wish, okay? Because your mind is at peace, you're relaxed, you're calm, you're thinking about whatever it is that you want to grow, and you're free of all of the stresses, all of the difficulties that can exist with business, can exist with day-to-day life. Okay, you have to give yourself time to shut off from this, but don't force it. Okay, now, second point, you must allow your mind to create without criticizing it. Okay, often if we're looking at creativity, you can stifle your own ability to create by saying, no, that's rubbish, no, that won't work. Okay, you're already beginning to criticize it before anything is even coming out. Okay, you have an idea, say you're thinking about a new marketing campaign, you've got a wacky and wild design creative in mind. You say, no, maybe that's a bit too wild. No, I don't know though, because so and so did that and it didn't work too well for them, so why would that work for me? Okay, now whilst you think in your head at this point in time you're being rational, you're being cogent, you're then actually stifling your own creativity. Now, I'm not saying run with any idea of any kind any of the time, but just allow yourself to create without criticizing. Okay, now creativity comes in many, many different ways. We're thinking about digital agency ownership, we're thinking about new marketing campaigns, new ways to strategize, new ways to make customers happy, both B2B, both B2C, whatever. Okay, you are thinking about all of the components that come along with the digital marketing agency, and that can be a lot depending on what it is that you do. Okay, so we're thinking about ways to be creative, ways to be ingenuitive, which is a very, very big thing in the digital world. Okay, now you must allow your mind to create without criticizing it. If you begin to criticize your own thought patterns, you're putting yourself down, you're stopping your thought in its tracks before it's had the opportunity to blossom into something that could be really, really cool for you. Okay, I see so often people with such lack of confidence, and it's so painful to see, because these people have wonderful, creative, talented minds that could really create something amazing. But because they criticize themselves so heavily, these ideas, they never come to fruition. Okay, now this leads us very, very nicely onto my next point, where indecision and doubt can come from overthinking. This thought process, spending too much time going round and round and round in circles. You have a creative idea, you put it into the box, ready to go, and then you begin to criticize it. If you imagine the idea physically going into a box and you begin to criticize it, you think, that's not going to work because of this. It doesn't fit there because of that. This person did it, it didn't work out. This indecision and doubt that is slowly beginning to form, that many of us don't realize the source of which it comes from, is from overthinking it. You're taking too much time to implement it. Now, this is not the same as due diligence, okay? Due diligence is very, very important to do before you launch anything for your business. However, overthinking is something that is completely different and an awful lot more toxic for your thought process and for your business. You begin to overthink something, it means you're spending too much time on it. You're giving it too much of your brain power. You're beginning to develop doubts that didn't exist. You're beginning to develop this indecisiveness that wasn't there before. Why? Because you've taken too much time to do something about it. You've written it down, stored it, put it away, and you haven't done anything with it. You've allowed yourself the time to think, but too much time to think, okay? But ultimately, you will begin to procrastinate due to a fear of failure. This indecisiveness is going to lead to procrastination. Now, if you've procrastinated on something for long enough, the urge to do it is gone. The willingness to do it is gone. That creative moment that you had where you felt on top of the world, you thought, we can do this, we can smash this, we can really be something bigger, is now gone, okay? Because you've taken too long to do it. The procrastination has went on for too long. You've developed a fear of failure. You decided at this point in time, it's better to not do it at all, because then I can't fail. Then it's impossible for me to make a fool of myself. It's impossible for me to look silly. It's impossible for this campaign to not work because, hey, I'm not even going to try, okay? Now, one of the cold hard truths about being an entrepreneur in general, not just a digital agency owner, is that if you do not take risks in a very calculated sense, might I add, okay, but if you do not take these risks, you will have absolutely no concept, no idea of how big you can grow. You might find yourself running for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years, decade, couple of decades, whatever, in a maintenance area, which is fine. Say you're earning 25 grand a year, you're doing that for the rest of your life. If that's where you're happy with, fantastic. It doesn't really require much risks, doesn't really require much creativity. Just keep doing what you've been doing already and you'll continue to earn that. Fantastic. But for those of us that want to get to 50 grand, 100 grand, 500 grand a year, you've got to begin to take calculated risks and make decisions where, yeah, they are a little bit intimidating, they are a little bit scary, but guess where that thought process came from? And this takes us back to the originality of creativity flowing the most when you're relaxed, okay? It means you had this idea when you're on holiday. You had this idea 8 o'clock when you were chilling out in front of the TV, okay? Your brain is just relaxed and you are allowed to think without criticism from yourself, okay? So that brings us to the end of topic number 1. I'm going to give you a brief moment now to ask any questions that you have. And indeed, take this time as well, please, to jot down any notes, and I'll join you in just a moment's time for topic number 2. Wonderful. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off then. Coming on to topic number 2, you cannot take care of the business if you do not take care of yourself. A happy entrepreneur is an effective business owner. That's the overarching topic of today's conversation, okay? So being an entrepreneur is about more than simply working around the clock. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say you don't want to be working around the clock, okay? In my eyes, one of the key benefits of being an entrepreneur or self-employed business owner, whatever way you want to look at it, is that you don't have to work around the clock because you're not working for anybody apart from yourself and your client, okay? Now, if the relationship is established well enough, your client should have a very, very healthy understanding of how and when you're willing to work. Okay, but ultimately the point we need to understand here is that being an entrepreneur is about more than simply working around the clock. There is so much more to life. There's so much more to being a business owner than forcing ourselves to work 16, 17, 18, 19 hours a day. Okay, it's not particularly healthy, again, in my opinion. It's not particularly productive. It's not particularly effective. I always say 1 hour spent doing productive work is better than 8 hours spent doing nothing. Okay, now many people that work in these day jobs say, would openly admit that only half of the day or a quarter of the day they're actually doing valuable work. The rest of the time they're either procrastinating, standing at the cooler, doing things that, you know, technically speaking, they shouldn't be doing, but everybody does it, so they do it. Okay, that's one of the very, very difficult habits to break when we become self-employed or when we become an entrepreneur. We feel like we should be working the standard 8 hours a day, but we never stop to ask ourselves why. Okay, if you're earning significantly more per hour than you were earning in your other day job or whatever you did before, then there would be, technically speaking, no reason to do the same amount of hours unless you wanted to earn, you know, infinitely more money until you decided to stop. Okay. Now, it's the thought process that's attached to being an entrepreneur here that we have to think about, because we work when we want to work, not when we have to work. And this is a very, very simple thing that we begin to understand over time. For most people, when they make the transition from being employed to self-employed, it's a strange phenomenon, I use that word again, that takes effect, because they begin to be beat themselves up. They begin to pick on themselves a little bit because they're like, well, why are we not doing the 8 hours a day here? Or why am I finding it harder to focus? Okay, now we fall into this trap of sitting at our desk for 8 hours a day, but not really getting anything done. As I said earlier, I'd so much rather you did 1 or 2 productive hours of things that you actually needed to do, and then you took the rest of the day to do whatever you wanted to do with it. Being an entrepreneur is about so much more than simply working around the clock. Okay, self-care is paramount to feeling ready and feeling sharp. As an entrepreneur, your responsibility is your own. Nobody's paying your salary for you. Nobody's taking care of your business for you. Okay, this is why you need to make sure that you are in the best possible position to be leading that business. And that means getting a good night's rest. That means making sure that you are taken care of. That means that you are relaxed, you are happy, you are productive, you are focused, you are feeling ready to attack that day. Okay. Now, the reason that that's so important is that if the best version of yourself doesn't show up for work that day, doesn't show up to run that business that day, you might find that the business begins to struggle only because you have stopped taking care of yourself. Now, working round the clock all the time, I would consider that not taking care of yourself properly. Why? Because you will be burned out, you'll be tired, you'll be drained, your energy will be down. You won't be enjoying the other things in life that you enjoy, therefore making you less happy because you feel like you're forcing yourself to be at work, but you couldn't really answer the question of why. Why are you doing that? Okay. So I want to get rid of the misconception that you need to be working 20 hours a day. Okay. Now, if you allow yourself this downtime, you can come at your business tasks and commitments with a clearer and more focused mind. This restfulness, this peacefulness that you work so hard to maintain, okay, just taking a moment on the couch, or watching TV at nighttime, spending time with your family, going out for lunch with loved ones, whatever it is that you do around this, as well as a good routine. Maybe you go to the gym, maybe you work out, maybe you eat well. Okay, all of these things that you need to do to be the best version of yourself. You allow yourself this downtime, you can come at your business tasks and commitments, more importantly, okay, with a clearer and more focused mind. You'll be happier and more productive during meetings. You'll be giving yourself more of a pat on the back. You'll be beating yourself up much less. You'll feel stronger, faster, more confident, more capable, all because you're taking care of yourself. Okay. It is near impossible, again, in my opinion, to work 20 hours a day and still be hyper focused, hyper happy, hyper healthy, hyper productive, and all of these other things. Okay. Now, despite what many of us see, despite what many of these things exist as online, of, oh, well, the ideal entrepreneur works 20 hours a day. The ideal entrepreneur works weekends. The ideal entrepreneur never sleeps, yada, yada, yada. Okay, I don't believe it for very, very, very good reasons. Some of the most successful people I know take care of themselves first, and it allows them to run a happy, healthy, successful business that achieves the goals that it wants to achieve. If you feel rubbish, if you feel run down, if you feel headachy, tired, sore, no, you're not going to be the best version of yourself. And therefore, you're not going to run the best version of your business that you can today. Okay, so make time for both business and your personal life. This is a very, very big one. And maybe it's not spoken about that much in these business webinars or business conferences. Okay, because we're always focused on how to run a better business, how to run a bigger, stronger business, which I love talking about as well. But the one part I feel gets pushed to the wayside that shouldn't is self-care. Self-care routines. You get a good night's sleep, you wake up at the right time, you do your morning routine well, you have your coffee, you have your shower, you have your breakfast, you take care of your pets, you take care of your family, you drop the kids at school, you then arrive ready, happy, and ready to have a great day. Okay, now that is what is important. And then everything else will slot into place. You'll do really well throughout the meetings, you'll manage your team well if you have one, you'll get your tasks done well and efficiently. And if you bear in mind that you don't have to stay at the office for a certain amount of time, only until you got done what you want to get done for the day, that's a more productive way to look at it. Okay, look at your day as this is what I would like to get done today, and that will take as long as it takes. Not, I'm going to sit there for 8 hours. Okay, it doesn't really make any sense to do that. So that brings us to the end of topic number 2. I'll be joining you again very shortly for topic number 3. But first, I'm going to give you a moment to ask away with any questions, and indeed take your time to jot down any notes you wish to take as well. Wonderful. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. We had a few comments in there saying how much everybody can resonate with this. I really appreciate that. The feedback is cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to chuck that in for me there. Okay, so moving on to topic number 3, focus on the good feeling. Okay, third and final topic for today. bring us to the end of today's webinar session. Okay, so point number one, we feel good when we win. Okay, now I want to focus very, very strongly here on third and final topic from today's session, that we feel good when we win. Okay, focus on the good feeling. Why? Because it carries us forward. Now, in order to achieve these wins, we've got lots of different things that we need to focus on. Okay, but most importantly, we need to make sure that we are doing things the way we want to do them when we said we were going to do them. Why? Because it releases this good feeling. Okay, now if I give you a comparative example here of a time when you didn't have a great day, a time when you didn't get much done, a time when everything just seemed to not go your way. Okay, now I'll ask you the question, was that because it was a bad day, or was that because you were having a bad day? Okay, now most of the time bad days will come from whatever way we choose to look at them, and I would encourage you to look at the good feeling. Now, this isn't a motivational pep talk. It's not me telling you, hey, be in a good mood all the time just because we said so. It's focusing on the good feeling. It's focusing on the wins. We feel good when we win. If things are going negatively, if we feel like things are going poorly, it's going to decrease our ability to believe in ourselves. It's going to decrease our ability, therefore, to then be productive and instill these happy, healthy, productive business measures that we were speaking about earlier. Okay, we feel good when we win. That's just the nature of us as human beings. So if you want to achieve this feeling consistently, you must allow yourself to make things happen in your business. Each time we are productive, you will find yourself in a better mood. You will find yourself going forwards at a quicker rate. Okay, now one way to kind of help us around this situation is not by giving ourselves this insurmountable list of tasks, something that is so enormous that we don't really have any chance of achieving all of that today. Okay, there are some very, very, very successful people that I'm fortunate enough to know that simply put between 1 and 3 core things they want to achieve today. And if they achieve those 1 to 3 things, they have had an exceptionally good day. Okay, now, what does this do? It allows them to, first of all, take the peace of mind to focus on these 1 to 3 tasks, because it's not a list of 50 things that they're going to get done today. They've just got to get through this 1 to 3. Now, their brain power can focus on these 3 things. And as they achieve them, they're getting what? Wins. Okay. They're getting 3 of these wins in a row, 1, 2, 3. They're feeling great. They're feeling good. They're feeling productive. And they have more time to manage the team, take care of the business, think about new concepts, new marketing campaigns, whatever else it is that they want to launch. Now, it doesn't mean to say that they haven't got 50 other things that need to get done, but what do? They schedule them across Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or even into next week if they need to do that. Okay, we look at priority, we put important things right at the start, we put not so important things at the back. Okay, now there's whole other topics of conversation about time management, prioritization, but we need to understand when running a business where to put the priority tasks. Okay, if we spend too much time, too much brain power, and too much energy focusing on things that are low energy, okay, or low energy requirements such as admin, we then suck up that valuable energy that we could have been spending on making bigger, better decisions, such as, say, new marketing campaign or hiring somebody who's going to be invaluable for the team. Okay, so if you want to achieve this feeling consistently, you must allow yourself to make things happen in your business. Now, if you buckle yourself with doubt and overthought before you've completed anything, you run the risk of never winning. Okay, it's up to you mentally here how well you do throughout your day. Okay, now this isn't to say that every day is going to be a good day, and consistency, in fact, isn't having an amazing day every single day. It's really showing up and getting something done simply because you said you were going to do it. Okay, now consistency long term, I believe, is one of, if not the only, keys to a successful business or a successful anything. Okay, now one way to buckle this before you've even had a chance to get off the ground is overthinking. Okay, doubt, overthought, indecisiveness, procrastination, all of these negative, toxic things that can kick in. Okay, now if you allow this overthought process to take place before anything is completed, you run the risk of never winning. You run the risk of this task, this win, never actually happening, because you never got to the end of anything. You've never launched a new idea. You've never allowed yourself to be fully creative because you stopped it in its tracks. And if you keep stopping your creativity, you'll see a compound effect over time of never actually achieving anything. And therefore, you're going to believe that you're incapable of achieving anything when very, very likely this isn't true. Because we circle back to the root of the problem and we say, well, why are you never winning? Why are you never getting anything done? Oh, it's because you're not allowing yourself to be creative. You're not actually allowing your ideas to come to light. Now, these are much smaller indicators that are very easy to miss in the overall compound effect of not actually progressing. Okay, we're assessing right back to the absolute root of why things aren't going well, which is often very difficult to do. Okay, but most of all, you should enjoy running your business. The absolute final point on the final topic here, most of all, you should enjoy running your business. If you don't have those high moments, if you don't have those wins, okay, now, like we said, not every single day is going to be the best day ever. But if you don't consistently feel like something is going well, or that you're happy, or that you're really enjoying what you're doing, then something is wrong, and we must look to assess the root of what is wrong. Okay, so that brings us to the end of topic number 3. I'm going to give you again just a moment to ask away with any questions. Please take your time to jot down any notes as well that you might have, and we will be right back for the recap and the Q&A session. Excellent. So let's move ourselves onto the recap for today's session. Okay, number 1, creativity flows when you are relaxed. Okay, very, very, very important to keep this in mind. Relax, take the time to yourself, and thinking productively is never time wasted. Number 2, take care of yourself. The business will follow. If you do not take care of yourself, you cannot take care of your business. And number 3, it feels good to win. Okay, but in order to win, you have to allow yourself that creative process. Otherwise, you'll never see anything through. You'll cripple it with overthought, indecisiveness, negative things happening to you. So we want to beat this concept, and we want to enjoy our business going forwards. Now, as always, an enormous thank you for taking the time to attend today's session. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you to so many of you for engaging. Thank you for all of the comments, questions, and notes that you put forward throughout today's session. I read them all, and I really, really appreciate you taking the time to put them in. And I'm so glad that you enjoyed the webinar as much as I enjoyed presenting it. So if you would like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us. And on there, you can go ahead and book a call at a time that suits you. So I'm going to leave the calendar up on the screen for you there whilst I go and grab the questions that I have from today's session. Okay, cool. So first question I've got here, how do I get rid of self-doubt? Okay, awesome. Love that question. Okay, and I actually hear it quite a lot. So something that we need to make sure we're doing here is just getting started. Okay, don't judge yourself whilst you're doing it. Don't worry about too much. Okay, just look at the results that you begin to see. Look at the positive affirmations. Self-doubt is a very, very infectious and toxic thing, but as you go forward, you just allow yourself to get started. You think, you try something new, you put it into action. You look at the feedback that you see nice comments from people, you see your campaign doing well, you get positive feedback from your family, friends, professional network. You'll see yourself eventually begin to rid yourself of this self-doubt. Okay, you don't have to be hyper confident all the time, but you definitely don't want to be crippling yourself with self-doubt. And one of the biggest ways to get around that is by simply just getting started, because I think you'll find that actually it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. And self-doubt really often stems from, oh, I'm going to do this badly. This is going to be rubbish. And once you begin to see that it isn't rubbish and that you're not doing it badly, you'll begin to feel hopefully much, much better. And the better you feel, the more this self-doubt will begin to dissipate. A great question. Thank you for asking. Next question. Sometimes I need to be productive and I haven't got a choice. Okay, cool. Again, love that question. So is it possible to look at this differently? What's your mind telling you right now? Are you capable of being productive? Okay, I like to look at it that way instead. Instead of I have to be productive, I don't have a choice. I want you to think, well, am I physically capable of being productive right now? Is this something that I can do? Okay, now mindset is really what we're going to use to conquer these times when we don't actually feel overly up to the task. Break it down into smaller pieces. Okay, if you don't have a time to rest, you don't have time to not do it. Say you're meeting a deadline, something's coming up before you can actually, you don't really have time to rest before it needs to get done. Okay, fine. So let's break it down. Let's not allow that task to feel overwhelming to us. Okay, break it down. Stop looking at the finish line and instead focus on the step in front of you. Okay, so that's a trick that I use when there's a deadline that absolutely needs to be reached, but maybe you're not feeling 100% up to the task. I hope that helps. Thanks so much for putting in that concern. Okay, any more questions we have from today? No, perfect. Okay, so once again, thanks ever so much for taking the time. Thanks ever so much for engaging in today's webinar. I saw everything that you guys put in, and I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so I very much look forward to seeing you again on the next iOB business webinar. Take care and bye for now.